Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. I hope the day has started well. I'm sure it hasn't, let's face it, after what happened last night at the Emirates. But I hope anyway that you've managed to find some sort of cheer this morning after that miserable affair that we all sat through last night at the Emirates. Arsenal losing 2-0 to Newcastle in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. Now, look, I have to admit, I have sat here for the last hour and I have not been looking forward to recording this show and going over again what happened last night. Knackered as well. Got in really late last night. As is the way after night games, I just can't sleep when I get in. I'm sort of running over things in my head over and over again. I just can't sleep. So I'm knackered this morning and not feeling too great after that last night, as I'm sure you are all feeling exactly the same way. Newcastle running out 2-0 winners in a hugely frustrating night at the Emirates. Now, I have to admit, I wasn't feeling very good about this game before the match started. I was talking to some mates on my Arsenal WhatsApp, and I just had a sneaky feeling something like what happened was going to happen. I just didn't feel confident. Kind of looked at this Arsenal team. You can see they're tired, they're fatigued, they're running out of ideas, they're struggling to create chances, they're struggling to put chances away when they fall for them. And on the other hand, you got this Newcastle side who had won 6 or 7 in a row, whatever it was, had just had a good win at Spurs, have won at Man United, are full of confidence, have got the best striker in the world pretty much at the moment right now playing for them. And I just did not have a good feeling about how this game was going to pan out. And it did end up panning out in the way I feared. Performance-wise, look, it wasn't terrible from Arsenal performance-wise. I mean, you'd have seen all the numbers, you've seen all the stats in terms of what they did. I mean, you look at the stats there, 23 shots to 7, but just 3 on target. 3 shots on target from 23 from Arsenal. 70% possession. Touches in the opposition box, they had 47. Newcastle had 15. Corners, 30. Sorry. Oh, no, they're not there. Yeah, they are. 11-1. I mean, it was just... when you look at it and you break it down into performance-wise and what they did, it wasn't the worst of performances. But at the end of the day, if you don't put the ball in the net, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many chances you create, how many shots you have, how many touches in the box the opposition have compared to you. If you don't score and the opposition does, it really doesn't matter because they win the game and they put themselves in a hugely commanding position going into the second leg. And that was the story of the night for Arsenal. They just couldn't take their chances. I think Opta stats showed at the end of the game that they had 3.04 expected goals, which is the most this season by any Premier League team in a game in which they've failed to score. So it was the worst finishing performance of the season by any Premier League team in any competition. I mean, it's a pretty staggering statistic, and it paints a real picture of what we all know, basically, and what we've known for a fair while, that Arsenal just do not have enough in the final third. They do not have that killer, that clinical forward, that clinical finisher who is going to put the chances away, who in the big moments, in the big games, which last night was, will make a difference. And on one hand, you had, as I said, probably the best striker in the world right now, certainly one in the top 3 in Alexander Isak. And he just showed everyone what Arsenal are lacking. And it's pretty apparent. We've spoken about Isak on this show plenty of times before. You all know he's been absolutely my first choice to come into Arsenal. He's exactly what they need. We all know that. It's no secret. But last night, it was just glaringly obvious watching him play and how he performed, how he took his chance, how he just got himself in the right position to be able to take advantage of that chance. You know, it's not lucky. I mean, it's lucky that the ball broke to him the way it did off, I think it was Anthony Gordon. He didn't mean the ball to go into Isak's path for the goal, but it's not lucky that Isak's there. It's clever forward play from Isak. He pushes Odegaard in the build-up to it because he thinks the ball might end up breaking to him and he wants to create himself a bit of space. Could that be in a foul? Maybe so, but it was just clever forward play by Isak, who knows he's probably always going to get away with a situation like that. He's always thinking ahead. He's trying to get himself some space, and lo and behold, the ball does break to him, and bang, he puts it into the top corner. No chance for David Raya. Just absolutely clinical, and the type of thing, obviously, that Arsenal are lacking. I mean, the chances they created, Arsenal, it's just not. You can't be missing those chances. The Martinelli one, I thought it was really good play by Martinelli. First of all, it was a great break. The only time Arsenal really broke with any pace and sort of one touch was a lovely ball by Trossard first touch. But I thought Martinelli did everything right. He took 2 really good chances. I didn't think the finish was the worst finish in the world. So that's a relatively difficult chance. Yes, you're 1-on-1, you should score, no doubt about it. But I think when you look at it sort of XG numbers, I imagine that's not the highest sort of XG chance, that, because you're running at pace, you've run length of the pitch, you're tired as you run that distance. You've still got the goalkeeper to beat. It's not an absolute sitter. It's one you need to score, definitely, but it's not an absolute sitter. But the ones for like the Timber header, you've got to be scoring that in the first half. And Kai Havertz's header in the second half was just genuinely remarkable. That was actually one of those ones that was harder to score. When the ball deflects into the path like that, no one around him, 6 yards out, centre of the goal, you just cannot miss. You can't miss that. But the way he didn't even get his header on it. He took his eyes off the ball. The technique was terrible. And it just summed up Arsenal's season, really. It's a story of Arsenal's season where on one hand, you've got this clinical striker showing you how it's done at one end. And on the other hand, your forwards just are not proving to be clinical enough. And yeah, it was really, really frustrating. I thought Ian Wright absolutely nailed it after the game. And I was sitting in the press box, Wrighty was in front of me doing his stuff, Wrighty TV. And you could see the frustration in him. The Newcastle fans were getting on Wrighty's back throughout the game. He was having a bit of banter with him and everything. But you could, Wrighty's such a massive Arsenal boy, and you could see how much yesterday was frustrating him and hurting him. And when I talk about strikers who just knew where to be in the box, he was the ultimate example of that. And it's impossible that you can't always have an Ian Wright. He's the best finisher I've ever seen play for Arsenal, my hero. And but he just had a knack, and the best strikers do. And you look at Isak's goal again. I'll go back to that example of knowing where the ball is going to break for you in the box and being in that right position to take advantage of any sort of ball that was bouncing around. And there was so many times yesterday when the ball was bouncing around in the box for Arsenal, but it just didn't fall to a player in the right position because they just don't have that nous to be able to be in that position. Wrighty had that. Isak has that. The best strikers do have that. And you could see the frustration of Wrighty watching that game last night. And he was speaking to ITV afterwards, and he says, look, you've got to look at the board now. I don't know what you do, but you've got to try and do something. Arteta needs help. I know it's very difficult to get anything done in January window, but he needs something else, because if it's going to carry on like this, it's going to be very difficult to score. We're not scoring with corners now. We're not scoring with the chances we're making. Something needs to change. Something needs to happen, and it might be a sort of simplistic message, but it is absolutely the right message. Something needs to happen. There's still a long way left in this season, a long way to go in this season. And, I try my best on this channel and in how I report not to be reactive to certain results. But last night was, it's a big game for Arsenal, a really big game. And for it to go the way it did because of their lack of finishing prowess in the final third, it was just really, really painful to watch. And so this isn't just reacting to one game. We all kind of knew this was coming. We knew in the summer, we spoke about it. I spoke about it. I thought Arsenal left themselves short. They took a gamble in the summer window. They spent money in positions, which, to be fair, I don't blame them for buying a left back and buying a left-sided midfielder, because I feel like they needed those positions to be players to come into those positions. But when Sesko said no to them, they had an awful lot of time left in that window to move on to someone else, to get a deal done for someone else, to give themselves the best possible chance this season of scoring goals, scoring more goals, adding some freshness to the attack. But they chose not to do it, despite having a lot of time left in the window after Sesko made his decision. So there was a big, big gamble at the time. I said I felt like they'd left themselves short. And it's just abundantly clear, and it will never be more abundantly clear from sitting through that 90 minutes last night. Now the tie is not over. Arsenal can go to Newcastle and win by a couple of goals. They've done it recently in the last couple of seasons, but it was 3 seasons ago. They've gone up there and won 2-0. They can score goals. They've shown it this season. So it's not impossible that they are going to be out of this tie, but they've left themselves a mountain to climb. And a lot of it is down to their own poor squad planning and their lack. I don't know if it's the lack of ambition is the right word, but just their lack of forward thinking, really, I would say, from Arteta, from the recruitment team, from Edu, who was in place at the time, to look at that squad and think, you know what, we can get through this season with what we had last. Well, not even with what we had last year, but with weaker than what we had last year in attack. You know, it was a big gamble, and it's not paid off. And now it's beginning to hurt them in the big games that they've got themselves into. And unless, as Wrighty says, something changes, I struggle to see them being able to get themselves over the line in the other big games that they're going to have coming up that are going to decide this season. I hate to be really sort of negative and downbeat, but it's very difficult after a performance and a result like that to sort of look at the positives at the squad, because there's 3 weeks left of this window now, pretty much. And they just have to react. You know, I've talked about this sort of phrase, reactive rather than proactive, in the window plenty of times. If this isn't a situation that you simply have to react to, then I don't know what is. You know, Arsenal have lost their best attacking talent, their go-to man who scores the goals, who sets up the goals. He's gone, and he's not coming back for a couple of months at least. Best case scenario in Bukayo Saka. The one attacking player you signed last summer, you don't trust in any games, basically. Even games you're losing when you need a goal, you don't trust him. He stayed on the bench last night, Raheem Sterling. He might not have been fit, but we've seen in previous games this season when he has been fit, when Arsenal have needed a goal, Mikel Arteta hasn't used him. He hasn't trusted him. So that hasn't worked. And he's the only attacking option you added to a squad last season. So if this isn't a situation where you simply have to react, then I genuinely don't know what is. They have to go out in the next 3 weeks and find something. The recruitment team needs to do their job, and the club need to go out and spend, because they can still do something. They can still have a successful season this season. They're second in the Premier League. They'll go through in the Champions League. They could still be in the FA Cup if they win against Manchester United, which is going to look difficult now. But they've still got a good chance of going through in the FA Cup and getting themselves into the fourth round. So there's still plenty of silverware, even if you think that this one's done and dusted, which is not. But the Carabao Cup is looking very, very difficult now. But it's not done and dusted. So there is still plenty to play for this season. But they have to go out and do something this window, because I just can't see that they're going to have enough to get themselves over the line if they don't. I just can't see it. What we saw last night, we're going to see more and more as the season goes on. And that is the big concern. It feels like they have to do something. Mikel was obviously disappointed after the game. He said, if you look at what both teams produced and the domination of the game, it's not a result that reflects the story. But the reality is they were super efficient with the chances they had, and we weren't. And at this level, in these kind of scenarios, you need to impose yourself to win the game. He said, it's just half time. When I see the team playing and how we dealt with a lot of situations and playing against a very good team, I must say I have full belief that we can go up there and do that. Obviously, he's going to say that. But I think even the most ardent of Arsenal fans knows that it is a huge mountain to climb now. On regrets of the game, he said the 2 goals we gave away, kind of classic Mikel Arteta there. I mean, if the regrets aren't the missed chances, but it's what you did defensively. He said the 2 goals we gave away, after the 1 or 2 deflections in the first one, the goal arrives. It's preventable, but they generate that chaos. They're good at it. Then the second one in particular, the first and second reception of the ball, then the ball cannot get there to score the goal, but it gets there. We can do better. But again, both goals, as I said, the first one, Isak's alive to it. He knows where the ball's going to break, and he gets his reward for that, being alert in the box. The second one, again, when Raya makes a save, who's the first player to react? It's Anthony Gordon. It's not Jurriën Timber. It's just players being alive in the box. Whereas Arsenal, when the ball breaks and pings around in the penalty area, it just never seems to fall to these players to finish it off. It certainly didn't last night. They just don't. There's just a lack of alertness in and around the final third from the players they have right now, and it's costing them. Absolutely, it is costing them, and it's tough to keep going back to Alexander Isak, and obviously he is right now one of, if not the best, one of the best forwards in the world right now. He's so confident. Saw the way he was running the channels yesterday and dragging Saliba and Gabriel. Saliba especially out of position down that right hand channel. His movement, his pace, just how strong he is. It was a joy to watch which was painful to say as an Arsenal fan, but he was a joy to watch. It was a brilliant centre forwards display from Alexander Isak. And Mikel's sort of speaking about the lack of killer instinct in front of the goal. He said, we're always going to discuss this when we don't score, because when we score 5 against Palace or 3 in the next game, whatever, we're not going to discuss that. I understand it. I try and help us players as much as possible. On Isak, he says, I don't think he created or had any big chances, but he was involved in both goals, unfortunately, with the 2 times that the ball fell to him in the box. That's what you have, the real quality up front. And they can make a difference. They're very, very clinical. And he is the real quality up front. And that would make a difference. When you look at this Arsenal team this season, you put Alexander Isak in that team, they're top of the table right now, in my view, and they're certainly in the Carabao Cup final. You know, Mikel will point to the Palace game, scoring 5 goals, and Sporting Lisbon games. And he's right. You know, Arsenal do score plenty of goals, but they score in patches. But they also go through big. There's also plenty of games that the team doesn't score in, or they've scored just 1 goal in. I think it's 13 out of the 30 games in all competitions this season. They've scored 1 goal or no goals in a game. That's just, it's too much. It's too much jeopardy when you're on that. You need to win games by greater margins. Otherwise, you're always leaving yourself open to these sort of matches. If you're in basically half of your games, or a fraction under half your games, you're only scoring 1 goal or less in those matches, then there's going to be matches when you're going to lose or you're going to draw, which has been the case for Arsenal. And that's what's hurting them this season. And last night was just another example of that. And it was quite striking to see so many empty seats in the last 10 minutes. It's just not something we've not really seen for a long time at Arsenal now. You know, one of the big things that Mikel Arteta has done is bring everyone together, bring that connection back between the supporters and the fan base. But to see so many empty seats with about sort of 10 minutes of the game remaining yesterday, about sort of 78, 79 minutes is when people started to filter out. And, you know, that's before injury time as well. So it's basically 15 minutes before the end of the game in a semi-final of the first leg, when, you know, 1 goal would make all the difference, really. If Arsenal goes to the second leg 2-1 down, you know, if they could have found themselves a goal at the end, then that was, you know, the tie would have been very much alive, certainly a lot more alive than it is right now. But those fans who left early yesterday, and I'm not criticising them at all, it's your own right if you want to leave a game early, clearly didn't have any belief that Arsenal were going to get back into that game, even though there was still a good 15 minutes or so left of it. Mikel was asked about it, and he said, look, it's their decision. We try our best, and it's their decision to stay right behind the team or to leave. I think I repeated 1,000 times how important they are and how critical it is to maintain the level of energy and belief in the stadium to generate big moments at the end that we could have had. And because we were very close to scoring, making it 2-1, and we would have needed that, but that wasn't the case, and that's not good. But the thing is, though, there wasn't, you know, the Arsenal had a lot of chances yesterday, but they didn't really have a lot of chances in those last 25 minutes. They dried up. Newcastle fell back into that sort of 5-5 formation they played with, and they soaked up any sort of all the pressure that came that Arsenal tried to put them in that last sort of 15 or so minutes. So I think those fans who decided to leave, they could see that Arsenal weren't going to find a way through. But it's not so much that. I just thought it was quite a striking thing for the first time in Arteta's era, certainly since the sort of turnaround where Arsenal have gone on the upward trajectory. It's the first time we've really seen a lack of belief maybe from fans in the team. And I think that paints more of a picture, not just of what happened last night, but maybe a sort of general feeling about what it's like at the moment watching Arsenal. I think there's a growing sense of we're not going to score a goal, or we're not going to score enough goals, or we're not going to excite ourselves or excite the fans enough to want to stay and watch that last 10 minutes. And I think that's a worry as well. And I think it goes back to, again, just needing to inject something fresh into the attack, into the way Arsenal play, that can just re-energize the place a little bit, because it has gone flat, I think, and it does need re-energizing. And if these players that we've got right now can't do that, then you've got to look to bring some others in who can do that and can re-energize and can kick the team on over the second half of the season. This has been a really downbeat one. I can feel it as I'm saying it, so apologies for that. Player ratings wise, I thought Lewis Skelly was Arsenal's best player. Again, when you're sort of your 18-year-old makeshift fullback is your best player, then I think it paints a picture about how sort of things went. I thought Raya maybe could have done better with a second goal. It was going wide. I mean, it's hard for him to know that, to get his angles absolutely spot on from there. But the original shot from Isak was going wide, so he could have left it, but he didn't. He pushed it out I think he will certainly be disappointed that Timber was a bit flat-footed and allowed Gordon to get there first. But I gave Raya a 6. Timber I gave a 6. Saliba and Gabriel, would definitely cause problems by Isak and his power and his ability to run the channels. They just looked a bit scared of him, I thought. You don't often say that about those two. I gave them a 6. Lewis Skelly was a 7, who's my man of the match. Partey and Rice I gave a 6. Odegaard just struggling so much at the moment. And that's the worst possible timing for Arsenal when you've lost Bukayo Saka. And then for Odegaard's form to fall off a cliff at the same time, it's just a real blow, and it's hampering Arsenal as well as the form of Leandro Trossard in front of goal. I think those two combined were good for about 25 goals over the last couple of seasons in each of the last 2 seasons, those two. But now they're just not scoring at all, and that's just limiting Arsenal from an attacking sense massively. Havertz, shocking miss. There is no excuse for that miss. You cannot be doing that in a semi-final when an opportunity like that falls to you. You absolutely have to score. To take your eyes off the ball and miss it altogether and shoulder it wide from 6 yards, it's just it was an unforgivable miss. It really was. And Martinelli I gave a 5 as well. Substitutes who came on, but they made absolutely no difference whatsoever. I'd have liked to see Mikel sort of change things a little bit for that last 25 minutes in terms of how the team was playing and operating, but he didn't. It was very like for like and just made absolutely no difference at all. This is what some of you guys have had to say. Matt says, looking at stats from the game last night, it looked like we created chance after chance, but watching it did not feel that way. The only chance we made from good quick play was Martinelli's chance. All other chances came from set pieces or lucky deflections. Yeah, you can say that, but that's generally how a lot of chances occur. You look at the Newcastle's goals. It fell, Isak's one fell from a long free kick into the penalty area, a lucky touch from Gordon that fell to Isak. And the second goal was a shot that was pushed out that just fell to Anthony Gordon at the back post. So that is how a lot of goals are scored. I think, I watching the game, I certainly felt like Arsenal created chance after chance. It was incredibly frustrating. So I'm not sure I really agree with that. But you say it's really worrying. We are slow in possession and teams and allow teams to get into a low block. And I don't see how that's going to change. I agree with that. Sorry, my throat is struggling a little bit at the moment. I agree with that. I think, Mikel, a big part of Mikel and how he's tried to shape Arsenal over the last couple of years is unpredictability and having versatile players and all that. But I think right now, Arsenal are looking as predictable as they ever have done under Mikel Arteta. And that's a concern, I would say. And it is easy. I think teams are finding Arsenal very, very easy to play against, I have to say. Right, I'm going to have to cough because I can't speak like this for the remainder of the show. Apologies. Right, let's see. There you go. That's better. We got one from Major MVP says, hi, Charles. Horrible defeat last night. No matter how disappointed the performance was, I can't help to think that I still believe in Arteta. Not sure if I'm being delusional or falling into the comfort zone, sticking with one manager. I'm just traumatized from the Emery era and even the way United operate in manager recruitment. I think, no one wants to go down the Manchester United route. Charlie says, I didn't go to the Palace game. So the last 4 games I've been to, United, Everton, Ipswich, and last night have produced 1 open play goal. That's genuinely embarrassing. Our 6 main attacking players, only 1 Saka is starting quality, 1 Havertz is a squad player quality, and the other 4, Martinelli, Jesus, Trossard, and Sterling, need to be replaced. We're miles off it, let's be honest. Starting quality centre forward and left winger needed, and 2 alternative wingers needed as well. I think we all feared in the summer that we ended up short in attack, but I didn't realise we were this short. Yeah, I think a lot of people will have realised just how poor Arsenal have been or looked at times in attack this season. I agree. I felt Arsenal would score plenty of goals this season. And to be fair, Mikel Arteta will point to the number of goals they've scored and say, look, we have. But as I said, it's in those tight games, and there's too many of those tight games for Arsenal where they're just scoring 1 goal or no goals at all, as I said. And there's no doubt about it. They need to inject some sort of spark into the attack. Jeet says, hey, Charles, really hope to come and make such a show. I think maybe it's time to just give up on the season. Not in a bad way, but maybe we just accept the season is not it. There's no shame in it. Things have not gone our way, but we will come good in time. That being said, I'm fully behind Arteta to win us trophies in the future. Give up on the season? No, not yet. There's still plenty to play for. The Champions League, for example, is absolutely there. Yes, it'll be difficult, but it's a good opportunity to win this Champions League this season. Are Arsenal favourites? No. Do they have a chance? Yes, they absolutely do. So no, I'm absolutely not ready to give up on the season yet. Nostradamus says, unbelievably frustrating game to watch. Newcastle's 2 backs and 5s are impressive nonetheless, but our attacking wavelengths are so far off compared to previous midfield and forwards over the years. You talk about Raya's distribution at the end there, and it was poor, and Havertz non-existent with his head and shoulders throughout the night. But it might have been the year football. Yeah, I know there's lots of comments about Arteta and the ball after the game. He did fall into a trap in the press conference. He wasn't using that as an excuse for Arsenal's defeat. He did just fall into a bit of a trap, and it was a bit of a rookie error from the manager there, and ended up being headlines all over the back pages. McCormick says, disappointed in Odegaard. He's been really poor form quite a few games and doing even the basics wrong in a time where we need some creativity and our captain to step up. He has disappeared. Also, I also feel like he's too far to the right wing. We could benefit with him centrally and moving around. Yeah, Odegaard's form is definitely a big concern. Elizabeth says, I admit I didn't watch the game fully as I was doing some work, but I don't think we played that poorly for a 2-0 loss. It just felt like we were never going to score, and there was some magnetic shield blocking the net. In my opinion, Declan and Miles were our best players. Few things drive me crazy. First, and this has been going on for months, is the amount of times we give the ball away. It's ridiculous. I honestly get nervous every time Newcastle had the ball, especially when Isak and Gordon were on the field. Secondly, the options we have in attack. Don't think Mikel, KSE, the board will be showing a better example as to why we need a proper finisher. Yeah, I agree with that. George says, I'm just watching the game and almost choked on my food when I saw we needed 2 goals and Zinchenko was on the field. Fantastic, terrific. I laughed out loud unintentionally. Not an expert, but did we not prepare? Why did we not prepare a proper squad in the summer? We should have had at least one of these fabulous Swedish players. Isak is unbelievable, one of my favourite worldwide. He should be wearing the number 14. Cheers from Florida. And Gordon says the team has put in a few of these really flat performances lately. Looking weary is understandable given all the illness in different lineups. It's now glaringly obvious that Saka isn't there in the attack. And we are badly in need of replenishment. When it comes to changing things from the bench, we have nothing up front to offer. Bring someone in, please. Mountain to climb now at Newcastle. Let's make sure we beat Man United and steady the ship. So that's quite a lot of what you guys have been saying. I'm aware this has run on quite a long time now. We're getting up to the half an hour mark of this one. And it's not been that much fun. And I'm pretty aware after big defeats like this, and a lot of people don't even want to watch content about Arsenal and go over. Much nicer to sit here and talk about a win, isn't it? And talk about the good times and a lovely semi-final win. But unfortunately, it wasn't the case, and there is definitely a lot of sort of running the rule over what went wrong last night, and that's what I've tried to do in this show. And yeah, apologies if it's a bit too downbeat, but not much to be upbeat about after that performance. But the one thing is, it is only half time. You never know. Stranger things have happened. It is not over yet. It's looking difficult, but it is not over yet. So we'll just have to wait and see until next month when the second leg rolls around, if Arsenal can go up there and do something pretty remarkable. But from now, focus has to be on United on Sunday, getting back on it, trying to lift the mood around the place, and a win against United will certainly help do that ahead of the North London derby. The big games keep on coming, so you can't afford to feel too sorry for yourselves because, as I said, got to focus on the next game, and the next 2 games are absolutely massive. So that's it from me. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your comments and reaction. As always, appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again in the morning. We've got Inside Arsenal Extra Time coming after that tomorrow afternoon as well. Myself and James will be recording for the first time in a week, so looking forward to that one. Have a good day, everyone. Try not to think too much more about the football, and yeah, I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.